Have you ever met someone that was super difficult to talk to? What about you? You have? All right. Yeah, well today we're going to talk about those type of people and not really specifically about those type of people versus what those people could take from this, all right? So, um one of the things that we fail to learn um, and really take heed to in life is how to listen, right? You could say something and that person will go on a 10, 15-minute rant. And the thing is, they never heard what you actually said, but they always want to get that point across. And they never heard what you said. It just didn't register. So one thing that um, we gotta learn how to do as a people is start learning how to listen, right? Um, Listening is a skill. I don't know if you ever heard that before. Listening is a skill, um, and there's a such thing as um, non-active listening, and there's a such thing as active listening, right? So when active listening, right, is like when you actually showing a genuine interest in what the other person is saying, right? Um, Without interrupting, preferably, right? Because it's easy to interrupt, right? But active listening is when you're showing a genuine interest in what he or she is saying, and you're not interrupting. You. I told you, I explained that to you before, right? Um, yeah. Okay. So you do understand that, right? Um, you understand that? Okay. And so active listening, you don't want to interrupt the person. Not only do you not want to interrupt them, but you want to learn how to respond thoroughly, right? So um, that takes practice, right? Especially if you used to being a certain way and then you finding out now that this is something you're gonna have to actually practice and do. So you got to learn how to listen without interrupting, and you got to learn how to respond. You got to learn how to respond. Um, you got to learn how to respond. With uh, empathy, right? You got to have some kind of empathy. Um, you don't have to have it, but you got to show it, right? For that person to keep talking. So a lot of times we don't show that. We don't have any empathy for people. We already got our answers together, and that's not really helping, right? So you need to learn how to show like verbal language um, to show that you're interested. Nod your head a little bit, show them that you're paying attention, right? So that the person you talking to, so you can engage in that active conversation, right? And then have those empathetic responses to show them, and acknowledge that you are listening to their perspective. Um, you do understand they got feelings if they being emotional, because the the real thing you're trying to do is be able to get an understanding before you give them a response, right? So, um, like I said, listening is a skill. Um, we got to learn how to hear what they're saying um, before we speak, before we come up with an answer, before we come up with a suggestion. You got to listen. You got to learn what it is that they're saying, um, and give a response accordingly. A lot of us just don't have that skill, man. I know you know somebody like that, all right? They just don't get it. And hopefully they will. Hopefully you can learn something, um, and you can be able to send that to them, right? So anyway, learn how to have open-ended questions, right? Meaning you encouraging them to share more about themselves, to share more about their thoughts. All right, you know what I'm saying. Ask them a question that they can actually answer, um, not a question that you have a predetermined answer for them already. You know what I'm saying? Because A lot of times you could ask questions only to give the answer that you already predetermined was the answer to that problem. So you got to learn how to ask questions that's going to help them share more about their thoughts and their feelings, right? And 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 this could help, like, this is going to help you explore their situation more so that you can get more insight and so that you can give them the answer that they actually need versus the answer you want to give them, because a lot of times your answer is the answer you want to give them and not what they actually need, right? You want to learn how to reflect on the statements they making, right? You want to learn how to summarize what they saying, um, because you heard what they said, you actually listened. You want to be able to say that back to them so that they know that you actually heard what they're saying, right? And then you ensure that you understand their perspective accurately as well, right? And that's going to help you gain clarity um, when it comes down to trying to understand what the person you talking to is actually dealing with, right? And a lot of times we don't show that, we don't reflect on that, right? um and there's more we can go into. I'm gonna leave it all, I'm gonna leave it right there because this video is just really about listening. um and that's something, I give y'all what I practice, I give you what I learn, and I give you the things that's helping me better myself. And that's what I come to share with you, to keep it real. But anyway, listening is a skill, man. Learn that thing. Pay attention, all right? And as always, I got a precept I'm a bust it down with, right? This is when Job was talking to the Most High. It's Job 42 and verse 5. He said, I have heard of thee by hearing of the ear, but now mine eyes seeth thee. So Job was listening to what the Most High said, and he had heard of thee, right? He heard of thee by hearing of the ear, right? But once he got more clarity from listening, now he could see it with his eyes, right? So there's a such thing as um sight and then insight, and now you can see it with your mind, right? So in that situation, he had heard it, he already had insight on who the Lord was, but now that he heard it with his ears, now that he listened to what the Lord was saying, now he was able to see, he was able to have sight on the thing. And that's what we got to do when it comes down to active listening, right? um, you hear it, you pay attention, and then you get it in your mind, and then you start to be able to see it better with your own eyes, um, with your own um, senses, right? So learn to listen.